What is up, everybody, and welcome back to Talkin Wellness, presented by South Florida Wellness Network. My name is Christian.
Kayla.
It's your boy Michael. How we doing?
And we have yet another episode of My Story Matters. I love this series, guys. It's like my favorite thing to talk about. Just bringing people on the podcast to share their stories, their life journeys, their stories of recovery. It's so uplifting. And we brought somebody new to do it to end our Mental Health Matters month series. We thank you all for joining us on this wild journey. We've heard many stories, but today we're going to do a very special My Story Matters dedicated to this wonderful series that we've been doing. And that's why we brought a very special person. Do you mind sharing with them your name?
Hi, I'm Amber.
Welcome to the podcast,
That's
Amber.
Amber, guys.
Yes.
So, Amber, do you mind sharing a little bit of who you are here in the company and what you do around here?
Yeah, so I was a youth peer specialist, and now I'm moving into the youth outreach coordinator role. Moving into the youth outreach coordinator, I'm going to be focusing a lot on events and youth move, and just my main focus is really building leaders within our youth and in the community, and bringing, everyone together. Awesome.
That's pretty wild. That's pretty wild. So Amber, you're doing great work, but a larger reason why you're able to do a lot of this great work is because you yourself have gone through a lot of different things in your life where you now have used that experience to help people in the community. And like, I've seen you work. I've had the great opportunity of joining you because we do a lot of shadowing opportunities, especially for the new coming peers. And I've had an opportunity to shadow her, and just the way that she works with a person, the motivational way of doing things. It's really impressive.
Yeah.
And I just want to give you your flowers because you deserve them. So I can't wait to see what you do with this new role, and we can't wait to support you as a team,
Mm-hmm.
But we're talking about your story, and there's a lot of ways we can start, but as always, we really like to start with your childhood. It's kind of to see the progression of time to today, where you can now say you're a person in recovery, and you're a person who is happily willing to share that with other people. Yeah. So do you mind sharing a little bit about your past and your journey of recovery?
Yeah, so I grew up in Pennsylvania, in a small town, but my childhood was pretty turbulent, to say the least. From a very young age, it was just kind of chaos, and my mom worked 3 jobs to kind of keep us afloat, and for most of my childhood, my dad had his own challenges with substance use. During the time that my parents were together for my childhood, which was very brief, probably up until like 5 or 6, in the household, it was just a lot of fighting, physical, emotional, just never really like a safe space for.
And you were an only child, you said?
I have a sister.
Oh, okay.
She's a little bit older than me. We didn't really grow up together. I mean, during the time that my parents were still together, we lived in the same household. So she experienced some of that with me. I think my first memory in my childhood home was sitting on the steps with my sister, and her just telling me everything's gonna be okay while my parents were, in like a physical argument. And I was always a daddy's girl, so with my dad kind of being in and out of the picture, it was heartbreaking. And my mom, God bless her.
Can I ask you why you felt like you were a daddy's girl, like why you felt more inclined to be closer to your father?
He was fun.
Okay.
Like, he was. Me and my dad really just clicked. Like, he's the one that I would play video games with. Gotcha. He was just
so you've got more of your personalities and who you are from your father?
Oh, for sure.
I resonate with that very deeply.
Yeah.
That which makes it such a struggle when that person is not around.
Yeah. He I'm definitely like my dad's.
Yeah. But I also think kids gravitate to the parent that's more absentee too, because it's your parents are kind of like your first gods, and so when one is missing, you kind of internalize that, and you oftentimes want to seek out that relationship.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think with him too, it was like he was more my friend.
Gotcha.
Like mom was more, you're gonna do this,
Yeah.
you're gonna behave. You have
Dad was like
rules.
cool.
Dad was like, what do you want to do today?
Yeah.
So that's an interesting one because you do need both. You need the balance of those dynamics for sure.
Yeah, that's
Interesting. That's super
But as
cool.
a kid, that's what we want too, right? Like we just want to have fun. We don't really want
I
rules.
mean,
Like
when I think about my own experience with my father, that's kind of how my parents were separated. So like, I would see my dad on the weekends. He'd pick me up at Toys R Us and go in and get a toy. So like, that was my experience with my dad too, for sure. But obviously, you think later on, very appreciative of my mom.
for sure, who like
nowadays.
instilled those values.
Yeah.
Like,
And I think that's probably because my dad's not in the picture anymore. If he kept continuing to buy me toys, I'd probably still like him.
Camera, that'd be really great.
But no, jokes aside, I think that's super interesting that you're. So what about your relationship with your mom? Was it close at all, or you just?
With my mom, like I've always loved and respected my mom, and she just wasn't. Like she was always out to make sure things happened.
Yeah.
To make sure there was food on the table, to make sure there were gifts under the Christmas tree, like.
You're just two different people.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like the sacrifice of time, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm not invested in my child, but I'm out here investing to sustain house and all that stuff, you almost like sacrifice one thing, like you're sacrificing the relationship in order to provide.
Yeah.
So it sucks.
And you see those dynamics where you see those parents where they're like, you see it in movies where they kind of portray that dynamic where it's like the guys, the father's always working and flying, and the kids never get to see him and have that relationship, but he is providing.
Yeah.
And then you have the opposite where there's people, maybe not providing as much of a lifestyle of cars and riches and all that, but they're always there.
Right.
Every birthday, all the time. So it really just depends on kind of who you want to be as a parent or what kind of parent you want.
Yeah.
And I think with my mom too, now that I'm older, I appreciate it more now because
Exactly. That's
looking back, it's never when you're a kid.
It was always like she always did what she needed to do to make sure that like me and my sister were okay.
Yeah.
That we never went without. And I think we gravitated towards my dad too because
He did the fun stuff.
He was home
Oh yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
And my
may
mom
not have been the best thing that he was
Yeah.
home all the time, but to you all as children, you saw it as like this is.
Why do you think it's not the best thing?
Because what
Because
she
what?
shared.
No, don't go there, Michael.
Because what, Caleb? Because the
We're not
guy.
going there.
No,
What
not
if it
because
was
of
a
the guy.
woman
Not
saying
because of the
it?
guy. Not
I
because
just
of
want
the
to.
guy.
You gotta ask.
Well,
the
I'll
question.
say why. I'll say
Okay.
why I'm thinking.
'Cause I don't think they
because
should
you
either.
just mentioned your mom was working 3 jobs and had no time to make
You knew it was
guys.
coming.
No, I know. I don't think about it that way. Because I do think that
Mhm.
but if a woman is a breadwinner, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Mhm.
I believe strong women.
Yeah.
But to me, if you have a woman that's working 3 jobs and you're not doing really much to help with that, then there's a lack
Yeah,
of
if she's
balance.
working 3 jobs, it's obviously showing she's struggling or
Right.
having to work.
So that would be
extra.
like my observation.
Well, yeah, because obviously my dad wasn't, from what I remember, and wasn't equipped to hold down the job.
Okay.
Because of like the.
Substance use,
Okay.
and then you factor in active substance use with a joint bank account, and
That's toxic.
money's going missing.
That's fighting.
and
That's
yes.
why there's
you
physical
know.
altercations. For
So-
sure. Not that I
Mhm.
say that's a good thing, but that
No, but
almost always leads to that
that's a
situation.
gateway.
Yeah,
That's a gateway.
You know.
for sure.
So
That's
my
like the leading
mom's
thing.
making all of these sacrifices
Yeah.
and working and doing everything and trying to protect us, and unfortunately, at that time my dad was writing fake checks,
Yeah.
pawning her
Well, he wasn't
jewelry.
well. He was
Right.
in his.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
know
exactly.
That's
that
always-
when we're
yeah.
not well,
Right.
what happens.
You do things that are
Yeah.
not well.
Yeah.
Isn't that the toughest part?
For sure. That's the thing about addiction, and that's the thing that people have that misconception about, where they think it's like they're just bad people. It's like no, they're in a state of like
Survival.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like they're trying to get out of this. The same way you would be trying to get out of remission of something. It's
Right.
just
Yeah, and I think that's the perfect word to use, survival. I think that because people often, they should, it's like when they see people in the street and they're like, they just need to like take a shower and get a job. It's like, it's not that, it's about literal survival.
Yeah.
Like, this person's, we don't know what tomorrow brings to them. Like they need this substance or they don't, like they need this. This is
Yeah.
such a crucial part
Yeah.
of their existence, and it's not as easy to come out of it.
Yeah, it's easier said than done. So, okay, so let's go back to, so your childhood, you kind of like painted a picture of that. When was the first time that you kind of, I guess, started noticing your own challenges with either mental health or substance use?
That's hard because I
Or were you
knew-
just kind of going through it and then you realized afterwards?
Yeah, I knew that my life was turbulent and it showed up in school and friends, and because I also, never stayed in one place for too long.
Mm-hmm.
It was school after
That's another
school after
recurring
school.
theme
So for me, I really kind of like doubled down and tried to focus on grades, and I got bullied in school, for a lot of different things. And at that time, I just wasn't able to connect that it was, mental health. I mean, my mom took me to a doctor and I was diagnosed with anxiety and major depressive disorder, I want to say at 13 or 14.
Mm-hmm.
And they put me on medication for it, but I didn't.
That's a big diagnosis to get
Yeah.
at 13 years old,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts like when you were going to the doctor? Were you just like kind of following suit of what your mom, like what were you thinking? Do you remember?
Honestly,
Yeah.
I agreed to go to the doctor, but in the back of my mind, my plan was to get him to think that I had ADHD so I could get Adderall.
Okay.
And then he gives me those diagnoses.
Why did you want Adderall? Just because you see other people having Adderall? Or
So
you think you needed it?
at 13 is when I kind of started dabbling with substances. So then it was like,
How'd you get into
okay.
that? Friends, peer pressure,
Yeah, my
Nice.
mom moved me to a really small town with
nothing to do?
nothing to do, and,
Gotcha.
and the guy, this guy was a drug dealer, and we lived with him, so I kind of watched that, and then
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, sounds very familiar actually.
Sounds familiar.
And we're not trying to make it as a joking matter. I think it's just a pattern.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
pattern.
And I feel
Yeah.
that patterns need to be called out.
It's you see people that there's people that manipulate and there's people that prey on people like yourselves
Mhm.
at those ages, and you see it, you hear it. We've heard it in Kayla's story. We're hearing it in your story now, and it sucks to hear, but it's that's why we bring this information, because we want to put it out there to show
Yeah.
like, yo, there's people out there, like you may think they're cool and they're like your cool boyfriend or he's kind of cute, but it's like they're manipulative people out there that will put you in bad situations.
And vice
Not
versa.
not that they mean to, but they just
Yeah.
will.
For sure.
And vice versa, yeah.
Vice versa.
Yeah, and I mean, that's where it kind of started with me too. My mom moved us in with the guy that she was dating, and then he had a friend who had a son who was a little bit older than me, like 3 years older than me. So at 13, I had my first boyfriend, and his family, sold drugs too.
Mm.
And
So your boyfriend was the son of the boyfriend that your mom had?
my boyfriend was the son of my mom's boyfriend's friend.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
Oh, so they're still
Yeah.
close together.
Yeah.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
You're almost dating your stepbrother if they
Well, no,
That was
they
the
got
friend.
married kind of thing.
He's
Not
the
if
friend
almost,
of the-
yeah.
Yeah, so it was the friend, and he was older, and like their culture is like you sit around at the picnic table and you smoke blunts all day.
So interesting to hear that perspective. I'm curious to, based on your opinion, based on what you remember, what would you say was the moment when you saw things going down a spiral to like something worse? Because I know you've shared with me a couple things from your past, but I want to know the moment when you kind of started noticing, okay, this is starting to become a bigger issue than I was expecting. If you ever had a moment of that realization.
I would like to say that I did, but I was just I thought I was above it all.
Yeah.
And I thought that if I stayed away from the substance that my dad used, that I would be okay,
Mm.
and that I could beat it.
That's like everybody's code.
But I think it's like,
Yeah.
when you're younger like that, like, cause I can relate to
done
that,
it too.
you feel like invincible almost, like you are, and then if you're starting to like quote unquote have fun, cause you don't realize the compounding
I'll do it for a
effect
couple years.
of your
Yeah,
choices,
yeah.
So I can relate to that, like in high school, and then depending on the group that you hang out with, right? So what would that look like for you?
So I hung out with a lot of older guys. You know, I was 14, 15 years old, and I'm hanging out with like 25-year-olds.
Yeah.
And being a young girl,
Dudes are
you
creeps,
don't
bro.
have to
There's some
like,
creepy dudes out there for sure.
buy anything.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime that I did need to buy anything, I was very manipulative. Like, I learned how to do that. So I'd be like, hey mom, like, we're going to the movies, a whole group of us, I need $100.
Yeah.
And she'd come in, drop it off, and, you know, leave.
Interesting.
So it was like, I didn't really have any challenges. I mean, I was in, you know,
None of your
rehab.
parents challenged you ever with anything?
Well, my dad, for my teenage years, you know, was in and out of jails, in and out of rehabs.
And then your mom was just working, trying to keep
Well,
us up, so.
After my mom and my dad divorced, my mom was in another long-term relationship with a guy who I looked at as my second dad. I mean, 6 years. And honestly, I think that is when things really went downhill for me, is when that boyfriend and her broke up. Because all stability in my life was lost at that point.
Was he like a positive role model? Was he like a good father figure? You know, he wasn't your father, but like, you know, like, cause you said you lost stability afterwards.
And you looked at him like a father figure,
Yeah.
so there was something there.
Because my dad at that time wasn't there, and it, you know, we lived with him. We had a beautiful house in PA, like back in the woods. He had a daughter. You know, it was just stability. It
Were you
felt
doing
like
better
home.
at that time? Like, were you not using drugs? Like, was your mental health a little bit better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
Was he present in your life in those aspects? Like, cause sometimes when you're a stepdad, you're just supporting. You're paying the bills. You're letting the mom do it. But was he like actually
No, he was
active in that
present.
stuff?
That's
Okay.
awesome.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
definitely present.
Yeah,
I
cause
think,
it shows the difference.
I think they ended things probably when I was like 10 or 11. And like I said, for that time, he was super in my life. Like, I remember, like, we would play the question game. We would hang out by the pool. He was definitely a closet alcoholic.
And afterwards,
but-
did you keep a relationship, or it's just?
So he cheated on my mom with his ex-wife, and the last time that I seen him, he actually looked at me and my sister, and he said, no matter what, like, I'm always here for you girls, I love you girls. And after that, he never, I would call him,
And he wouldn't answer.
if he would answer, as soon as he like heard it was me, he would hang up.
That's gotta be tough. I mean, you're a
You
young
know.
girl. I think, I honestly believe for like young girls, like father figures are like their first, father figures, and even just like marriages
For
of
sure.
like parents is what
I think
we
kids
will
in
get
general,
for
but I agree with you. I think
relationally.
girls for sure
Yeah.
are way more.
So then it's like that kind of bleeds into our worthiness and our insecurities of like, it was me type of
Yeah.
thing. That's kind of how I resonate too, because I went through that same kind of process of feeling that internally. So I could see how that spiraled, but I also wanted to point to something that you mentioned that I thought was pretty powerful. So when there was strength in the family bond and your family unit was when you were actually doing better. So that family and like just that time, and even like you said, like playing games, like those memories of just like we had stability actually strengthens youth mental health.
Yeah. It just shows like, I mean, there's a kind of a correlation. I mean, it's not always that way, but there's kind of a correlation. The more time, and not just like just wasted time or just like they're there, but like intentional time you spend with your loved ones, the more they're going to feel supported by you.
Social
That's just how it is.
connectedness.
Like me and my brothers, we have struggled over the years to have close relationships. You know, recently I've been trying, not to ever big up myself ever,
Yeah.
but I've been trying my best to like reach into their worlds, you know, to have our dynamics and have our relationships better. And they've never been better than they have, you know. And that's from me intentionally going into their world, finding out what they like and doing it, you know. Sometimes you have to do that if you care about people enough,
Exactly,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah, I think at that time, and then my aunt, so growing up, you know, when my parents were together, my household was very turbulent, and my aunt Stacy and my uncle Wayne were my safe space.
Well, you said that with a
And-
smile. That's
Yeah,
so
you
nice.
can tell.
I love seeing that.
Me
like
too, me too.
when you
That
see
light
someone
up.
smile or their face changes and then they say something, it's like it's so cool.
they, you know, it was my aunt, my uncle, and my cousin Jonah, and I would go there on the weekends, and it was family. It was, you know, dinners, Saturdays, Sundays, we're in the garden, you know, we're watching movies, playing video games. Uncle Wayne would take us fishing on Sundays.
Man, it's so much the simple things in life. Like
that even sounds like an old story. Uncle Wayne,
Yeah.
he took me down to the
Picked some strawberries. It was great.
I love that. I love that.
And then at the time when my mom and her boyfriend broke up, my aunt had cheated on my uncle, and they divorced. So all the stability that I knew was taken from me, and I was angry. And my mom let my aunt move into our apartment, and I hated her for it. Like, how could you do this?
You ruined everything.
You know, and especially with, you know, my mom's boyfriend, like, just cheating on her, and then you're cheating on my, you know, like, my Uncle Wayne, who I still, like, he's my Uncle Wayne,
guy,
like, I loved him, you know?
Yeah.
So all stability was just gone.
And how old were you at this time?
I think, like, 10.
Wow.
Yeah, 10 or 11, around there.
And it hit you, like, it hit you, you knew it hit you. Interesting, at that age.
I was angry. I was, like, mean. That's when I started, my attitude changed for, like, the worst.
So what does that mean when you say it changed for the worse? What were some of the patterns that you feel you were kind of partaking in?
I feel like when, you know, we lived with my mom's ex-boyfriend, like, I had pain because of my dad, but, you know, I had been in a stable school, I had friends, I was playing softball, like, I was bubbly, you know, and then we moved, and my mom moves my aunt in, and there's a new boyfriend, and, you know, I just, like, my words were so mean, you know, my aunt would say something to me, and it's, I effing hate you. Like, why are you here? How could you do this? You ruined everything. Like, I was just so hurt and spiteful at that point in my life.
Yeah, which makes sense though, because as a child, like, your safe place and like where you experience, I mean, you just lit up when you brought up the memory of what that was, and now that was destroyed, and you don't have an understanding of like, this is what, you know, like, whatever was going on there, so immediately, like, that anger is gonna come out because this was your safe haven, and now it's gone, you know, so I get that. Alright, so let's like fast forward a little bit. So when did you actually recognize that your mental health and your substance use was in fact a problem? Like, that you started to see like consequences, or even just like difficulties that became like just overbearing?
Yeah, like you were like, I can't continue to do these things anymore.
It was probably right after graduating high school. You know, I had my first experience with an overdose a little bit before that, and at that point I was living with one of my mom's ex-boyfriends.
Alone?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah. And
how did that happen?
My mom...
She moved out and you stayed?
No, my mom had gotten with a guy when I was probably like 14. And we had a really turbulent relationship because he was unwell.
Okay.
And, you know, just like physical, emotional abuse, you know, like he, you know, beat my mom one time. Like, it was just bad. And at that point, my mom had kicked me out, and I moved in with her ex-boyfriend. It was my senior year of high school, and that's when I got back into my substance of choice. Living with him because he was dating a younger girl, and me and her were close, and she had like reintroduced me to it.
Wow.
And then I just started hanging out with, you know, older people again, and my mom's ex-boyfriend had me selling drugs for him, and instead of giving him the money, I was taking it to supply my own habit, and he kicked me out, and then I'm living at a trap house, and I lost my job, you know, my family's like not too fond of me, you know, wrecked my car, and I'm just to the point where I'm like, okay, like this is probably not good.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm 88 pounds, I don't see a way out.
So
You
what
know.
happened then?
I had gone to treatment in Philadelphia, which was rough. And at the time I was dating, you know, an older guy, because guys are a theme in my life. And I manipulated my way out of treatment after I got like a little healthy, and went back and, you know, kind of like lived that pattern for another couple, I would say, years. You know, my thing was always, it's not that big of a problem if I can, you know, build my life back up again and get things under control, but then they spiral down so quickly. So, yeah.
So that all happened in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
So now you made it to Florida.
Yeah.
So did you find it when you got here to Florida? Did you see those patterns continue, or were you able to like start that recovery journey right there and like?
Did you come
How
down
did
here
you
for
get to
treatment?
Florida? Yeah, how did you get here?
Yeah, so my mom put me on a plane, and she said, if you don't get on this plane, lose my number. Like, don't ever contact me again. We're done. At this point, I've totaled, you know, 2-3 cars. I've lost everything. So I came down here to go to rehab.
How old were you?
I came down in 2019. So, yeah, like 18 or 19.
Like pretty much fresh out of
Yeah, I
high
remember you
school.
said right after high
like,
school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fresh out of high school.
Wow.
I came down here to go to rehab, stayed down here for a little bit. I ended up, you know, having a reoccurrence in treatment, and then I flew home for my grandfather's funeral, and that started another process. And I kind of like repeated the same patterns when I got down here, you know, go to treatment, go to a halfway house or a 3/4 house, get involved with, you know, the wrong people or wrong men, and repeat that cycle.
How many times have you gone to treatment?
Ooh. In total, probably like 10 times.
The following conversation might be disturbing to some individuals. Listener's discretion is advised.
So let's talk about then the last one, where very last time you went in, and what did that look like, and what do you think was the thing that changed everything for you?
So, you know, what brought me to recovery was I had a reoccurrence. I had went to, you know, my best friend's house and, you know, convinced him to get high with me, and we went on a brutal run, you know, and I put myself into a detox, and I got out of detox, and I was like, man, like I still, like, I want to get high. Like, I can't live without it. Like, this just, you know, this is my life. And during that, you know, previous run, you have your family calling you in tears, like, just devastated. And I got to a place in my life where, you know, I had sat down and weighed out the pros and cons of, you know, what would be better, you know, for me to continue to live and, you know, build everything up and continually give hope to my family and then rip it from underneath them, you know, for the next however long, or would it be better to, you know, take my life and hurt them one last time with the hope that, you know, they'll get over it soon enough. And so that's what I did. I had gotten into my apartment, and I had, you know, taken a bottle of pills, and luckily 2 people showed up at my apartment, and they weren't supposed to be there. You know, nobody was. And they had, you know, called 911, and I made it to the hospital. I don't really remember much of it, but I do remember coming to in the hospital, and it's crazy because my life like flashed before my eyes, you know, memories, the good, the bad, everything in between, you know, my nephew at the time.
How old were you at the time? 19 still?
No, this was
20?
3 years ago.
Oh,
Just about
21.
3 years ago.
I don't-
So
how old are
20.
you now?
Was I 20?
You're only 23.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 20.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so wild. Yeah, so 3 years ago, I was 20, and I, my life flashed before my eyes, and I just realized that, like, I didn't want to die. And
I always kind of ask, like, 'cause we've
Yeah.
heard it a couple times that people have said that, and like, what were you truly, like, what were you feeling you kind of said it already,
Yeah.
like, you were like, this decision you were going to give your family, but like, what were you feeling in the moment to like, make you feel ultimately like, there's nothing else I could do, I don't want anything else, like, what were you,
I had just gotten to a point where I had come to the conclusion that, like, I was gonna live and die as an addict. That's where I was at that point in my life.
So
That was my story.
So you had lost hope.
yeah, I was gonna say,
Okay.
I think it's a sense of like true and utter hopelessness and defeat. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, and that's kind of what I wanted to get to the root of the
Yeah.
answer, because there's a few things, there's like, not few things, there's a platitude
It can
of
be
reasons,
anything.
there's a platitude, that was the wrong word, there's a platitude of reasons, but like, let's say, there's a lack of hope, or
Yeah.
financial reasons, or, just super depressed, like,
Yeah,
beat
mental
down,
health is a struggle.
But I think
So-
when people get to that point, it's truly because they just have no hope. Right?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
Yeah,
just
I
no
think
hope.
that's-
It's
Because
hopeless,
you can have
yeah,
all
for
kinds
sure.
of circumstances, but when you lack hope, that's when you're
Yeah,
kind of
you're
blind.
hopeless that you'll never get to those
Right, your mind
finances
just kind
or
of-
whatever, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just like complete and utter defeat, and I just didn't think that there was light at the end of it.
Yeah.
So I love that you said that. So you taken to the hospital.
Yeah.
You got out of. What would you say was the light that helped you make it to today?
What has been like your biggest support kind of thing?
God.
Yeah. Wow.
In going through that, I had finally come to the realization that, like, I don't run the show. Because
Wow.
if I ran the show, I'd be dead. I wouldn't be here
Wow.
today. And that really had started me on my journey with God, and I just know that no matter what, like, as long as I seek Him and continue that like, I'm gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Interesting that you say that, because I'm not going to say specifics, but you have shared with me that from that point till today, you've gone through a couple of struggles. There's been a couple challenges that you've had to face. So I guess my question is, how do you cope with that today, now that you're on that mentality of wanting to stay in recovery?
I think a big one is prayer.
Yeah.
Like, I would say that's first and foremost is prayer, because it's just that, like, undying faith. And I may face challenges, and I just know that no matter what, it's not the end of the world,
Yeah.
even though it may feel like it in the moment.
Yeah.
And
That's
I
good.
have an amazing support system.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
I have an amazing relationship with my family today.
That's awesome.
awesome.
My mom is my best friend. My dad's coming to
Yeah,
Florida.
you told me.
Yeah.
in
That's
2
awesome.
weeks.
That's sick.
And I have my niece and nephew who I want to see grow up, and
Yeah.
like, they really keep me going. I absolutely adore them.
You have a lot of hope today. I can see it in your
Yeah.
smile. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just such a.
You're so young.
Yeah,
Like, it's
yeah,
so
it's-
unbelievable to like hear your whole story, because like it, you hear that and you're like, bro, you could have died.
Yeah. Well, it's a miracle.
You could
like,
not be here. You could have not been able to have the hindsight of all the experience, have your dad coming, like all these
Yeah.
situations without you, having that epiphany.
Yeah.
So it's super
Yeah.
cool.
Truly, that's a miracle. Like, even your share of like 2 people showing up that weren't supposed to be there, like, that's nothing short of a
Yeah,
miracle.
that's
like,
wild to
that's
me.
such a miracle.
That's
Profound.
And
Yeah.
you're like a D1 athlete when it comes to recovery, and by that, what I mean is like there's people that like struggle with the recovery as they should, because it's a hard thing
Yeah.
to do. But like, right, you're killing it. Like
Killing it, and you're
Yeah,
23 years
yeah.
old. Like,
Again, you're 23.
You're 23. That's, this is gonna bring a question: is what do you feel like is the difficulties as a young person in recovery? Because I know, like, you've shared your recovery with me, and it's like not just mental health, but it's substance use. You've chosen a pathway, a spiritual and fellowship pathway, but also an abstinent pathway. So at 23 years old, like, what do you think are like some of the challenges of young people in recovery?
So many. A big challenge for me was my life was gonna be boring. Like genuinely, because if you look at,
so much.
I was just talking to
The
someone about it
serotonin
yesterday.
pickups.
But like even socially, like what do a lot of people my age do? Like they go clubbing, they go to the
Clubbing.
bars.
But you know
they-
what? You know what? I will tell you, I've had those phases in my life too. Those people that you're clubbing and going to bars with and drinking and smoking with, those aren't friends. Those aren't people that are gonna be in your life other than in those situations. And that's what I've learned. And if you go in other communities, drum circles or yoga or other, those people will do other things with you. They'll go karting. Like if I had a calisthenics group of friends and all we did was do calisthenics, like bodyweight workout.
Yeah.
All those people, we would have Halloween parties, we'd have a bunch of other things. My drinking friends, there's nothing we do besides go to Twin Peaks, go to the bars, do stuff like that. You know what I do? I don't hang out with them anymore. That's just kind of how it is with those people, you know?
No, yeah, I see that for sure. But to Amber's point, I think that's something that I've struggled with in my past, is the fact that, you know, especially for me, it was more on the lines of, I don't feel happy right now. Let me go to a club with my friend, you know? Or I'm not feeling necessarily motivated at the moment to do my whatever responsibilities. Let me just go and hit up a bar, you know?
Yeah.
Like I completely understand that mentality. It's like it is a big struggle, especially when you're young, because you're always wanting to have fun. And that's something that I feel not a lot of people really mention or see it in such a bad light. But when you're in your early 20s, like all you want to do is have fun. That's all you want. You don't want to work. You want to you want to have fun.
And you know what? Oh, sorry to cut you off. You know what's? I honestly think there's a lot of people out there your age that they want to do other things than drinking, smoking, all that stuff.
Yeah,
It's just they think like that. They think like, oh, I can't hang out with people. It's like, no, bro. Like, if you went up to some random people and you're like, yo, you want to go to the park and play volleyball? I have some other 3 people with me.
Yeah.
They probably like, yeah.
Because it's so commercialized and it's like 21.
Yeah.
What is 21
Right.
and you can drink.
Right.
So it's all of those things.
For
So
sure.
my point to say is
For
like
sure.
you are definitely a D1 athlete when
Yeah.
it comes to
You're
recovery.
killing it, bro.
Killing it. But what would you say to other people like, you know, your age or even younger that are struggling, that are thinking the same thing, like my life is gonna be boring, like I am young, like I don't want to.
And she's aware of those thoughts.
Yeah.
Like
so what
people
would you
won't
say?
be aware. Like some people won't be aware of that. They won't be like. They'll just be like, I want drugs, and they don't even know why.
Yeah.
Like they're
That's
used
so
to it. You get in
true.
such a routine of doing it. So you
That
just
is
want
so
it.
true.
That's what addiction is. But
Yeah.
you're like, I'm bored. Like I know that's going to be one of my struggles. I'm going to be bored. It's going to be hard for me to find community, and you have accepted that and moved on. And you're finding other friends in other avenues. You know.
Yeah, and I think it's also, you look at, you know, I looked at all my high school friends and I was like, oh wow, they're going off to college. Like, a lot of them are married and have
Yeah.
kids today.
Yeah.
And
I'm 30,
for a
I'm-
very
so I know.
long time, was like, I'm so far behind. Like, look at all they've accomplished. And I've, you know,
Oh,
went to 10
comparison trap.
rehabs and graduated
That
one.
can be tough too, though, because then
You
that puts that
know?
pressure on you to
Yeah,
be a certain
yeah.
way.
But
I
that's
think that's a struggle of people in recovery though, is because oftentimes we spent so much of our life struggling with, you know,
We're
mental
trying to make
illness,
up for
substance
time.
that now you're at whatever age you're at and you're looking, now we start to look out and say, oh wow, for the last 10 years.
I saw it in my
I've
mom, and
experienced
I saw it in
like-
my mom. I still see it in her today.
Yeah,
like all that
yeah.
time. That's why my mom is always. She
Yeah.
is such a crazy person because she's like it's almost like she has like a makeup for lost time mentality.
yeah,
If you
for
talk
sure.
to her, she's like.
No,
that,
no, no.
you
I
know?
think we all do that. Like I
Sorry.
totally no. I resonate with that piece too. You know.
Jeez.
So okay. So what would you say to young people that may struggle with those same like thoughts and maybe not have the full awareness that you have?
I think it's just, you know, finding your place and
Yeah.
being okay. I had to do a lot of learning who I am, what I liked, and
Yeah.
and honestly, I do things alone a lot.
That's
Like,
awesome.
Yeah.
you know, I don't.
You're
mind,
one of those
like-
people that can like go to the movies alone and stuff.
Yeah.
I can't do it, bro. I don't know
I
what's wrong
do it
with
all
me.
the time. It's the best thing in the
I feel
world.
I feel like I'm a loser because I can't do stuff. I wish I could because I feel weird. I'd be in there like. I would legit talk to myself. Be like, yo,
Now, let me tell you what you gotta do. And Amber,
I
you
love
follow
talking
this
to
one of
people in the
these days.
movies, bro.
I don't talk to people.
I'll probably
I
talk to
go
a
to the
random, honestly.
AMC Coral Ridge. Is the one
Oh,
is
I've been
the
there
dine-in.
forever.
It's the dine-in one. I go in. I go to the little screen, I get my food, right? And I get my little drink. They bring it to you. So you sit down, you're watching the drink.
You got the whole experience.
You're smiling, and then they bring the food to you and the drink. And then it's like, I don't know, Sprite or Diet Coke, whatever you drink. And then you're just watching a movie and genuinely experience it. And guess what? It's a communal thing because you're laughing with people, you're crying with people.
Have you ever been to the
Cinebistro? Huh?
You ever been to the Cinebistro?
No, but I know exactly what it is and I want to go one day.
Oh, yeah.
But that's what I'm saying.
I've never seen it.
Going to the movies alone can be a scary thought until you actually do it once. And it might be one of the best experiences.
What's worse, going to the movies alone or going out to eat alone?
Oh my god, I love
I've
both.
done both.
I love going out to eat
I
alone.
want to
What's
go out
worse,
to eat
though?
alone.
Really?
I'm not gonna lie. I will.
That's worse to me. That's way worse to me.
Like,
I think of movies.
Honestly,
You can catch me
I
at
mean,
a
it's
Chili's.
like dark in the
and
movie.
It's dark. Ain't no one gonna see you. You're there for a movie. But
Yeah.
eating, it's just like
I love going out to eat alone.
pull up my phone and put it on a cup or something.
That's when I do like takeout and I just go pick it up and bring it
No.
back to my house.
You gotta treat yourself, guys.
Yeah.
That's part of loving yourself.
Yeah.
You gotta allow yourself to do things that sure may seem a little weird, like, oh my gosh, why is she eating at this restaurant? No.
No, go date yourself.
Date
you know?
yourself.
I get like a haircut.
I am a firm advocate for loving yourself enough to treat yourself.
I think I'm just a cheap date, bro.
That's fine. That's fine.
I'm like, I was just stay at home and watch Netflix, bro. I work for stay at home,
But-
like.
and however you do it, but I think that's such a wonderful way of showing
For
yourself
sure.
Yeah.
love. It's by just allowing yourself to have that time where you can be by yourself.
Mhm.
So many people are afraid of loneliness, and that's something that I have to fight in my life because 10 years ago, like I would not say that I want to go anywhere alone, but I have to learn in my life to appreciate that alone time.
Yeah.
This is so special.
Yeah.
It's
There's something
important.
so special about walking at a park just by yourself, enjoying the breeze, enjoying the wind, hearing the birds, or going to the beach and dipping your foot
For
on the
sure.
sand. And like doing those experiences alone can be such a healthy and beneficial experience. I couldn't recommend
I
it.
honestly liken doing that to sobriety. Like seriously, like because like
Right.
getting on drinking and doing that stuff is a lot of times social. You're
Yeah.
doing it socially. You're doing it to be in a social setting.
Well,
to sit there alone and be there by yourself is truly hard, like you're saying.
I'll
Like,
tell
it's
you
difficult.
this,
Same as being sober.
and obviously I won't share his name, but I had the opportunity to work with someone, and they shared with me that one of the things the reason why they go walking at parks, at beaches, is because they enjoy the freedom of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for a long time they felt trapped in whatever they were going through.
Mhm.
Now they have freedom,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they enjoy it every single
Makes a bunch
day.
of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and that's how I see it. And
Yeah.
I when he told me that, I almost cried because it was so impactful. It was like we have freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Recovery gives us the freedom to live our life. Live it.
Yeah.
Look at a plant. Like look at a bug walking. It's those little things that make life worth living.
For sure.
Like right now, like one of my favorite things that we've been doing here at the office is whenever we can, let's say we have like a break time, we'll meet up by the cubicles over here and just talk for a minute.
Yeah.
Like Amber and John Carlos, we did it like a couple weeks ago. We're just talking about some workshops we want to do, laughing, making jokes, because it's those little moments that allow you to really enjoy life, so that then you can get refilled to help people in the community.
Yeah.
Right? Think
Absolutely.
about that for a second.
So Amber.
Something that like you said too is learning to love yourself. It's super uncomfortable, and for me, like we talked about, I've been through some challenges lately. You know, I went from 4 years of having constant validation, somebody, constantly with me, and now I'm, on my own, and I'm navigating that and the uncomfortability of it,
Mm-hmm.
and learning to like go out and do stuff alone. I wanted to go paddleboarding the other weekend, but like, I'm directionally challenged.
Yeah.
Oh
And I
my
didn't
God.
want to get
Paddleboarding's
lost
hard.
out
It's
there.
tough.
Yeah.
Like,
So okay. So
Get that good balance.
what? I have a paddleboard. You can borrow it anytime.
Aw.
If you can paddleboard, you can one
Yeah.
wheel.
Really? I paddleboard all the time.
Balance.
Oh,
Caleb
then
can
I
have
must.
one wheel.
then
It's a
I must-
different
I
type
must
of-
be able to one wheel.
Oh, it's a different type of balance.
Yeah. I gotta try it one day. Okay. So as a young person in recovery, what does fun look like for you now?
I love that question.
I'm gonna sound like a grandma.
I'm not that fun. I don't really do anything.
No, but
Honestly, it's like going over to my friends and playing games or watching movies
So
together.
fun,
Like,
yeah.
I went to the
God.
beach yesterday and laid out.
got some.
You know,
it's
got
okay.
You couldn't
Like,
tell.
honestly, a lot of the times it's like me in my house, like watching Netflix with my cat.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or
Yeah.
like reading
I'm a
a book.
homebody for sure.
Yeah.
I'm a homebody.
No, but that's so
Yeah.
awesome. So I think that's so amazing because you obviously have a lot of joy. You're very bubbly. You come in here and you can tell that there's just peace about you. There's happiness. Like you're always smiling. You bring people's moods up. Like you obviously carry a lot of hope. So to me, that gives our viewers like hope, especially young people that struggle with those, because that's like a real thought for a young person when they're kind of struggling with their recovery path. Is like, you know, what is my life gonna look like? I remember when I was in treatment and I was pretty young, I was 24, and I was like thinking like, this is the end of my, like, what is life gonna look like? And there was so much uncertainty where I was like, how am I gonna be able to like have fun? Like how am I gonna be able to like live a life, you know, outside of drinking or doing these things? And today, like, my life is such a gift. Like I have more fun than I've ever had in my whole years where I struggled, obviously, because I struggled.
Yeah.
But the gratitude, and as we were talking, like just walking outside and like feeling the breeze, like going into the ocean, like I don't take those things for granted as much as I did before, because I think when you've walked through a lot of like hell, you know, and a lot of challenge, you seem to appreciate life in a new light, you know?
Well, it's like you crave peace.
Yeah.
You know, I went from living a life of just pure chaos that now, like, all I want in my life is peace and stability and good people, and that's what I strive for.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that. That's such a good thing. Like,
Yeah.
you grow up, like, thinking, like, I want to be a pro soccer player, I want to be an astronaut, I want to be all this, and then, like, after you go through a lot of struggles in your life, you just learn to realize, like, I actually just want to have a nice, stress-free, happy life with good people that
Yeah.
care about me. That's literally all, like, we want.
Yeah.
We all want to be in a good community of people that we love,
Yeah.
and then be financially, you know, obviously free. I think that's what most people want, you know.
So, I think this perfectly segues to our last question of the day.
For sure.
Our entire series this month is called Mental Health Matters, so I think it's fitting that I finish with this question. Finish this sentence. Mental health matters to me because. I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about it. Right now, I just want to thank every single one of you for joining us on this wonderful month-long journey. It has been so much fun to just dive into mental health from different perspectives: the adult, the youth, the young adult. And one of the greatest things that at least I've learned, and I'm pretty sure that my co-host can agree, is that mental health is possible for everyone. Doesn't matter where you are in life. Seek your supports. Find your hope. Mental health is possible. And the more we talk about it, the better off we are for it.
Yeah.
So thank you for this journey, and thank you for supporting us. So let's go back to Andrew.
It's funny you say that. You say when you say mental health is possible, and it's like anything else. It's like a muscle, you know. It's just like a physical muscle. It's like it's same as a mental muscle. You got to work it out. So if you want to get stronger, and you got to go to the gym and do stuff like that. If you want to get stronger mentally, you have to talk about things. You have to do stuff like this.
And notice how it connects with the exercise, because exercise is hard.
100%.
But guess what? Talking about stuff is also hard.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, Amber, coming back to you, mental health matters to me because.
I mean, I think mental health matters to me because it's a part of me, you know, and I think like mind, body, spirit, and mental health it's not always a bad thing, you know, it's a balance. And I think talking about mental health and being open about mental health and being in tune with yourself, you know, that's what matters to me is just making sure that I'm always checking in with myself and other people. Because mental health is so different for everybody, and it can look different for everybody. You know, I could have a smile on my face and be having the worst day of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, you know, it matters to me because I just always want to give back and share and, you know, be a support for someone.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, we thank you so much.
Yeah.
You are
That's right, I like
such
to
a
hold back
pillar-
tears here,
yeah,
like, oh my
yeah,
God.
A pillar of strength. If
yeah.
anybody didn't believe recovery is possible, here is living proof and evidence of it, and as a young person.
Yeah.
So that's even more.
And you won like an award or something, right? Recently, like you were like, or maybe you were like one of the best employees this month or this.
She did.
Oh,
She got
She
employee
got
of the
employee of the
quarter.
quarter.
Yes.
It was Such a big celebration.
So awesome. Yeah.
Such a big celebration.
We have a big staff here, guys.
We
We have a
do,
lot of
yeah.
employees, and she was one of the very, very tippity
Yeah.
top D1 athletes.
did.
D1 national
Yeah.
athlete
Yeah.
over here.
Listen, Amber speaks at high schools.
Oh, yeah.
She's all about spreading awareness and being, as she said, that person that could be a support. Her heart is so with just seeing people overcome those challenges, and I've watched it. I've
Don't
watched
cry.
you blossom.
She's our bubbly
Don't cry.
frontline.
Yeah,
warrior.
yeah, just so proud of you. So awesome. So we're so happy that we were able to have you here. Thank you for sharing your hope with us and with the world, because people all over the world get to hear this.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
and you
literally.
all matter too. You know, if you're
Your
listening
story
to this.
matters, guys.
For
Please
sure.
share it.
We gotta have a call-in episode one day.
That'll be fun,
That
yeah.
would be
Yeah.
awesome.
So, thank you so much for joining us this month. This is the culmination of Mental Health Matters Month. But June is coming along real quick, and we're going to have some really good episodes coming in June. So, please like, subscribe, share, comment. We would love to read your guys' comments.
Yes.
And the more engagement, the more people connect with the podcast. So,
Absolutely.
and if you're one of our wonderful, wonderful listeners on Apple Music or Spotify or any other podcast listening place,
We love you.
we love you too, and we appreciate your support. So please give us that 5-star rating. It really helps to spread this podcast wherever it can be spread to. So don't forget, your story matters. Mental health matters.
I gotta add one more thing.
Oh, she's gonna add
Don't
something.
forget. We are celebrating 10 years,
10
y'all.
years,
10
guys.
years of community
Yeah.
impact. We have a gala that's coming up. It's also a fundraiser. It allows us to continue to do the amazing work that we're doing. So if you want to look in the comment section,
Yeah.
there will be a link for that as well. Come to our gala. We would love to meet you and see you. And then if you don't want to come, but you do feel led to donate to the cause, you can do that as well. So awesome.
Awesome.
So mental health matters. Your story matters. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.